What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of epic conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And Dad Central is in Canada, by the way. It's Canada's national fatherhood organization. And through that collaboration, I've been very blessed this year to contact directly or indirectly, or reach out to directly or indirectly 75,000 fathers around the world, over 75,000 fathers around the world. And I'm very humbled. So that is one of the best gifts I've had, not only this year, but in my life. And I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that amplifies Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, drink, and travel. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. If you know anything about Dr. Vibe, anything, one of the things I love is meeting new, wonderful people. And we have another wonderful new person. She's not only a new, wonderful person, she's a new friend. Tosha Schore is on a mission to create a more peaceful world, one sweet boy at a time, supporting your care for yourself, connect your boy deeply, set limits lovingly, and play wildly. Play is so important. Play, people, play. Got to get some more play in our lives, not just kids. She brings a burst of energy and optimism to parenting and is an expert at simple solutions to what feel like overwhelmingly complicated problems. Through her online communities, she helps break the isolation of modern parenting and lifts your confidence so you're better equipped to face the challenges raising young boys. She's a trainer of hand-in-hand parenting, co-author of a great book, Listen, 5 Simple Tools to Meet Your Everyday Challenges, and the creator of Parenting Boys Peacefully, including the Parenting Boys Peaceful, a 10-day Reconnect, an online group experience shared by over 15,000 parents worldwide. Bravo, bravo. And she's also a frequent guest expert on podcasts like this one and online and in-person conferences. So we'd like to welcome to the Dr. Vibe Show for the first time, but not the last time, Tosha Schore. How are you?
Thank you, Dr. Vibe, for having me. I'm amazing. I'm really, really excited to be able to have this conversation with you.
I am fired up. And now people will go, how did Dr. Vibe? Well, you know, I'm telling you, she's amazing already. But after this, you're going to know she is amazing. But just trust my word. Believe it or not, our connection runs through Thailand. So believe it or not, Tasha's, I think, on the West Coast, I think California. I'm in Toronto, but we were introduced by a lovely lady named Sonali in Thailand. And she said, you got to meet each other. You got to meet each other. And when you have good people in your community, they just do right things. And I knew from meeting this wonderful lady, I said, yeah. And yesterday I had a huge privilege. She had just started an online group of dads. It was her first time out. I'm going to go there now, Tasha. I'm going to go there. And she was going, I don't know if any guy's going to show up. I'm so nervous. And one of the things, she's a certified coach. I'm a certified coach. One of the things is trust your intuition and just let your intuition go. And we had 10 fathers yesterday, and it was amazing. Like there were some barriers broken yesterday. And I'm just really humbled that Tosha allowed me to share with her community. I listened more than I shared, by the way, listening, 80-20, listen. And it was a great event. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. How have you been today?
Good. I've had a really good day. One of those really productive days when you're in flow. I have to say, after our conversation yesterday, I was high. I gave myself this fist pump and I shouted yes out loud in my office to exactly everybody. But it was so exciting to connect with all those dads and really create a space for them to connect with one another. And I was so grateful that you offered to be there with us. and to offer your perspective and mostly just your presence, right? Because sometimes there's a bit of this imposter syndrome when I'm a woman supporting dads, right? So I'm obviously not a dad myself, but I have a real passion for it. I mean, my mission, as you mentioned, is to create a more peaceful world, one sweet boy at a time. And so we're constantly talking about our sweet boys and what do we do and how do we help them. But still, even in my community, a lot of the times I feel like the dads are left out. They're left out of the conversation, not purposefully, obviously, but I realized that I needed to make and wanted to make a concerted effort to create a safe and brave space, as my friend Dr. Vibe calls it, for those dads to come together. And that's what we did together yesterday. So it was a real gift to have you, and it was great.
I'm still bouncing emotionally and mentally from that moment yesterday. And one of the things that's core for me is a lot of times life is made out of decisions and moments. And I made a decision to be part of that epic conversation yesterday. And it's a moment I'll never forget. And you know, it's interesting. Christy and I were sort of the outliers in the converse. Not Christy, Tosha. Christy is one of the people listening right now, so sorry about that. But she's already bringing comments in as always in a good way. But Tosha and I were really outliers because there were about 10 fathers on there. There was only one father that was not Caucasian. There was, I think, there was a guy who didn't speak.
There was a Hispanic man on there.
Hispanic, yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Two of them. But so both Christy, both Tosha and I were outliers because if you looked at the screen, we were outliers in that screen.
There were no other black men in there. That's
exactly. Sure. But I'm humbled that I was able to relate to each one of the men there, and truly, truly humbled about that. So we'll start getting. The last thing I'll say is Tosha sent me an email yesterday. She goes, I am pumped. We had to end it off early and just, I got to go to another call. But before she went to another call, she emailed me. I was so excited. So more to come. But what we do, especially the first time we have new friends on the show, could you share a little bit about your background with our audience?
Sure. Gosh, what part of it do you want to know? There's a lot of background. I turned 50 this year. I got a lot of background.
Well, look, my mother raised me. There's two things you never talk about with a lady: age and weight. So I'm staying away from that conversation.
I'm happy to share both. It's not that interesting, though.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so where were you born? Where were you raised, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. That kind of thing. So I was actually born in Fort Bragg, California, which is a little town on the Northern California coast.
Yeah.
I moved up to Washington State pretty quickly, and my parents divorced when I was 5. And when I was 5, my mom and I moved to Oakland, California, which is where I grew up. So, and then my partner is from Israel, and so I actually met him my senior year of college, and I have been back and forth between Israel and California, and Israel and California, and Israel and California for a million years ever since then. So that's my sort of geographic story, and I can tell you a little bit about, I think, sort of why it is that I work with boys, because I think that's kind of one of the questions that people generally want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just want to share a story with you. So
absolutely, please. It's all about storytelling, please.
When I was, I don't know, several months pregnant with my first child, all of a sudden one morning I had this thought: what if I have a boy? Like, it never even crossed my mind, because I pretty much grew up with a single mom. Like, it was she and I, we were like the dynamic duo. I grew up, in Oakland, California in the 70s. It was like the women's movement. We'd go to protests. There was all sorts of, political activism, feminism. I mean, we were just in it all. And it was just women power, girl power, female power. And I don't know, I just assumed like I'd have a girl and we continue on with this tradition, right? And all of a sudden, one morning, I think to myself, oh my God, like, what if I have a boy? So what do? I call my mom and I say, Mom, what if I have a boy? Silence on the other end of the line, just like silence. And then, and then what's, felt like a half an hour, it was probably like 5 seconds. She said, don't worry, Tosha, we'll figure it out. and, and it was like,
We'll figure it out. Okay, thanks.
this is what's interesting, right? Because what happened, Dr. Vibe, what happened is that, I grew up, like I said, with a real strong feminist background. And I still consider myself a feminist, and I believe strongly in feminism. But what I realized as I had a boy and another one, I have three boys, was that in the feminism that I grew up with and studied, I was even a women's studies major in my undergraduate work. A lot of what I learned had men pinned as the bad guys. And when I had my boys, I had to somehow reconcile like these beliefs that I held true in my heart, like the rights of women to, earn the same as a man, to be treated equally, to have opportunities the way that men do, but also to be able to advocate for men and my boys, right? Because all of a sudden I have these boys who I love more than anything in the world, and they're not the bad guys.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of marry that. And then just to complicate things a little bit further, they were struggling. One in particular was really struggling. And I found myself in a position where I needed to figure out how I could advocate for him despite his behavior. In other words, like, okay, yes, the behavior is not okay. We have to work with him to help him and figure this out, but he's still good. And I still have his back. And all of the adults here need to have his back. We're the ones who need to figure this out. So that was my journey. And I just, at a certain point, was having such a hard time that I sought out help, as you understand. And that's how I met my mentor, who ended up being, I ended up co-authoring the book that you mentioned earlier with.
Right.
And she was running a support group that just randomly, or maybe not randomly, but I don't know, maybe it was just meant to be, but it was literally on this entire planet, right? We talked about Thailand, Israel, Canada, US. It was literally 10 minutes from my house. And so I started going every other week. She taught me everything she knows, and I was able to turn things around for my sweet boy. And at that point, I was like, okay, I got to spread the word. I have to let people know that there is help out there, that there's a way to do this peacefully. There's a way to parent our sometimes not so peaceful boys peacefully. We don't have to punish. We don't have to threaten, isolate them or anything like that. Because another little short story I'll tell before I turn back over to you.
It's okay.
I get excited about this. Sorry.
No. You know what? Realize I want people. Remember, it's a safe and brave space.
Yeah. Good. Because another story I'll share is that, I started working with parents, and I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching with parents individually, not particularly about boys, just using these tools that my mentor taught me. And one morning I sent my boys off to school, and I was just taking a quick, cup of tea and checking out the news before I started out my day. And I opened the newspaper, and it was like terrorist attack, rape, murder. I mean, it was just like one atrocity after the other, and it was all at the hands of men. And I thought to myself, okay, my calling here is to let parents of young boys know that we have an amazing opportunity here. Our boys don't have to turn out like this. Like, there is a lot that we can do, because parents, you have to understand, they come to me, they're terrified. Is my kid going to be the next school shooter? Is my kid going to be the next, rapist behind the dumpster? And these are little kids we're talking about, but their behavior feels really scary, and parents don't know what to do. And they're thinking like, oh my God, if he's like this now, what's he going to be like when he's a teenager? And so I thought, okay, I got to start connecting the dots for these parents, and really starting early, which is why I love to work with parents when their kids are really young. Like, we got these young boys, and it's like, okay, let's talk to them about parenting peacefully. Let's really show them how to set limits lovingly, how to play wildly, how to harness the power of laughter to help shift behaviors, how to understand like that emotions aren't a bad thing. They're not necessarily a sign that something is wrong, but often a sign that something is right if we can just, zip our mouths and listen a little bit. So that's a little bit about me. I get very excited about what I do.
You know what? That's very important in my communication with you, especially offline. You're a lady or a person or an individual whose purpose and passion matches your core.
Yes.
And it's your relevancy as a human being matches your purpose and your passion. So it works all together. It's an equal sign. It's
Thank
an
you for
equal sign.
noticing that. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Definitely have a few questions for you though, based on the little you shared. And folks, we're already going to be doing a part 2 because there's so many things I want her to share about. But I just want to shout out Christy White. Thank you so much for stopping by, who's a children's book author, and Dr. Tachi, who hosts the livest program online in regards to media. It's called Mediascope. It's a great weekly commentary about media, tech, and pop culture. Actually, we're doing this on October 27th, which is a Wednesday night. She does it on IG Live at 5 o'clock, and then on 6 o'clock, oh my gosh, YouTube, Facebook Live, WJMS Radio, and a gospel station out of, I don't remember what, I think it's Trinidad. Dr. Tachi, if I got that wrong, it's my head, not my heart. So let me get back into this wonderful conversation. Being a feminist, how hard of a turn was it to start focusing your energies on boys?
I don't remember it being hard. Like it's like right now, I just feel like I'm so in it. I have to think back. I don't remember it being hard because my love for my boys was so strong. It was like the number one thing. It was like, okay, I'm gonna fight for these kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fight for their right to be seen and heard and cared well for. So I don't think of it as being hard, but it was complicated. It was complicated. I guess I had to figure out, and I guess the hard part is that I had to figure things out well enough for myself that I could express them to my followers, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one thing when you're doing your own work, but it's another thing like when you're a public figure and
Mm-hmm.
people are listening to what you're saying, or maybe not a public figure, maybe that's not what I am, but like, I'm in the public eye, and I'm coaching, and people in the parenting world and peaceful parenting world know who I am. I have to like have sort of a confidence. And when you're teetering and you're thinking about something new and trying to figure something out, sometimes confidence is hard to find. But what I discovered early on, and I think that what's definitely like mainstream now, is that I just have to be authentic, and that's how I am anyway. And so I was just honest. Hey, I'm trying to figure this out. So I would come up with phrases that worked for me, like, yes, I get that the behavior is okay, like I mentioned before, but that doesn't mean the child is bad. So we do a lot of talking about separating like essence and being and our sweet boy from these yucky behaviors that are kind of glommed on top.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we talk a lot about, hey, in order to help peel back these behaviors that are getting in the way of him living his biggest, fullest life, we have to be able to remember that sweet boy is in there and constantly be moving towards connection with him rather than interacting with these behaviors so directly. Right. And for sure, rather than like labeling the child as the behaviors, right? He's a bad kid. He's aggressive. He's mean. He's a troublemaker. He's a bully. All of those things. Like we don't want to be going that direction.
Okay. When you started your journey, was there a moment or a few moments where you realized that it's going to be good? Instead of just focusing on my boys, I could start focusing on other parents' boys. Was there a moment or two, an aha moment, or while I'm saying, this is my core, this is my purpose? Did you have any of those early on in the journey?
I think the aha moment is the one that I shared with you with like reading the newspaper. That was my aha moment. That was like, I have to connect the dots for parents.
I love that should be another tagline, by the way.
Which one?
You connect the dots, boys dots for parents.
Connecting the dots for parents. I'm doing a whole rebrand. I'm looking for a tagline.
There you go. I think that's part of your core. As we go on the conversation, and I said, folks, we will be doing a part 2. So while you're watching live, please, whatever platform you're watching this live on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, please, questions and comments. We'd love to get them. What are some of the actually, here I'm going to ask you, when you started this journey of helping boys, parents and boys, the challenges you heard when you started your journey, are they still the challenges you're hearing today?
The challenges from parents?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead. Please listen, and I'd like to go a little bit deeper on at least some of them this evening, if we can.
Yeah, so the challenges, I guess, unfortunately, haven't really changed. I think that in general, schools are a really hard place for boys. There's a huge number of boys who are kicked out of preschool. Boys of color, as I'm sure you know, at even higher rates, right? The preschool to prison pipeline, we talk about these things, right? So and I think to myself, okay, what are these boys thinking? Here's a boy who is 2 years old, who is 3 years old, who is 4 or 5 year old, and they are getting the message that the adults around them can't help them. Like, they are so scary, or they are so out of control that the adults who are supposed to keep them safe can't. What happens to that child when that happens? Like, they internalize that message and their behavior only gets worse. And so I'm constantly getting in there and advocating for them. Like, hey, we got to look at these behaviors. These behaviors aren't the boy. The behaviors are just behaviors. We need to connect with him. If we can get him to feel seen, if we can help him, sense our presence and our connection and our love for him and our belief in him and our confidence that we can help him, his behavior will change, even if we don't know yet what we're going to do. So, I mean, the world still looks at boys in the same way it did when I started doing this work. They confuse the behaviors with the child. School's not set up for them, mostly. What else? Lots of aggression. I get lots of parents who come to me because they're struggling with their child struggling with aggression, and I just feel horrible because they're shamed terribly by friends, by family, by even by like therapists. Sometimes it's like you need to be harsher with him, et cetera, et cetera. And people just don't understand that really what's going on behind that aggression is like there's a little scared little boy in there, and we need to connect with him. It's just always about connection. So lots of aggression still out there, and lots of aggression being attempted to, or adults who are attempting to address it with strategies that just don't work, right? They just don't work. And one of the things that I'm constantly saying to parents is, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stop doing what doesn't work. You're here because what you've been doing doesn't work. Let's put that aside.
Okay, now it's going to be part 3.
No.
No, I'm being very serious because
we can go on for years.
Yeah, no, because I'm already looking at a 2 or 3 part conversation series here. Because I know once we just talking about the education system, we'll fill up the rest of this conversation.
That is not my area of expertise. I just want to say, but I just got parents in my community all over who are from all over the world who are like, yeah, my kid is not thriving. He's in trouble. Like they're walking around like terrified of the phone call home, right? A win in my community is like, we didn't get a call home. We didn't get a call from school today. Because if you've got a boy who's struggling, you know what that looks like. If your boy's in school, it's like your phone beeps and your stomach drops and you're afraid to look and you're just hoping it's not the school.
Just want to shout out also to Sivan. Thank you, Sivan, for dropping by on Facebook. Runs a great community called Men 360, based here out of the Greater Toronto area. So thanks for dropping by. In regards to the school system, why in Europe? Okay, what do you feel the school system is not getting right when it comes to educating and raising our boys?
Okay, so what they are not getting right is that they are still insisting that punishing them is going to improve their behavior. Like, and they're doing exactly what I hate when people do, which is that they're continuing to do something over and over again that doesn't work. So we still have, the stoplight in the classroom where it's like, if your good behavior is good, you go to green. And if you're a little bit off, if you wiggle or you make a noise that you're not supposed to make when you're not supposed to make it, you go to yellow and that's your warning. And then, I don't know what makes you go to red, but you're up and, I mean, just imagine, I think to myself, like, what if I'm sitting at my desk and like all day somebody's watching me? And every time like someone's like, oh, you got your leftover dirty breakfast dishes on your desk. Oh, red. It's like, oh, you went and watched them? Okay, green. Well, what about that bill that's overdue? Well, yellow. It's not like totally overdue yet, but you're in the 30-day period. I mean, it's like this constant thing. Like, how is anybody supposed to perform well or relax or be able to, succeed in a situation like that? So the school is still punishing. They're taking off recess for quote unquote misbehaving. Oh my goodness. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. You got this little boy who's like desperately trying to sit still, long enough to be able to make it through class, right? And he's just trying to hold it all in and he can't do it anymore and he like falls back in his chair and he's hanging over or whatever, Oh, 5 minutes off recess. Oh, 10 minutes off recess. That kid needs recess more than anything else. Not only does that kid need recess, but you give that kid recess and he's going to do better in the classroom. So the schools they just don't know what else to do. They don't know what else to do. They got to understand the brain science. I mean, the brain science is very clear that a child or anybody can't learn unless they feel connected. Yeah, they cannot learn unless they feel seen, heard. Their thinking brain, and Dan Siegel, the neuroscientist at UCLA, he talks about he does this brain model with like flipping the lid, which I love. You've got like, the limbic system in here and the prefrontal cortex up here. And it's like, you want this, you want your kid like this so that you can communicate. This is when they're like ready to learn and receptive and able to cooperate and basically like all the good behaviors, all the yummy things that we want. That's when their brain's like hanging out like this. But when they feel threatened, when they feel like teacher doesn't like them or they're going to get in trouble, they're scared to get in trouble, whoop, they flip their lid like this. And then they're not able to learn. Like, this is the part of the brain responsible for, for thinking and reasoning and planning and all that stuff. And so here's the teacher at the front of the room, like, trying to teach like this. And this kid's wiggly. And the teacher's like, okay, 5 minutes off recess. And it's just like, whoa, rather than like this. And the thing is, it's like you move towards a child, you put a hand on their shoulder, you invite them in at the beginning of recess to share a book that you saw in the library that you thought they might like. You give them a high five as they enter the classroom in the morning, or say you're really glad to see them. I mean, there's some really small things that teachers can do to just over and over pound in essentially like, I like you, I like you, I like you, you're good, we can do this. Like that message, rather than that sort of it's me against you kind of a thing, which just doesn't set them up for learning.
Christy White is saying absolutely. So I think you've gained a new fan.
Yay!
Absolutely.
I don't care if I gain fans, but I'm glad that she's
definitely supports. Then if the school system knows that there's a gap, there's a deficit in educating / raising our boys in their environment, why aren't they doing anything to change? Or why they're listening but they're not hearing? Why aren't they doing anything about this, in your opinion, from your personal opinion, and then working with other parents? What's the block?
Right. So, I mean, again, this is my opinion and sort of just my experience with parents. This is not my area of expertise, but what I do want to say is that educators, they're not there to get rich. They're there because they're passionate about their work. They want to help kids. They are incredibly under-resourced. They are underpaid. They work hard. So I feel for them. I get it. Like you can pay me $1 million to do their job. No way. It's hard. I get it. They've got often a lot of kids that they're responsible for at the same time. It makes it really hard. But I think that part of the reason that they're not getting it is because the same reason the whole world isn't getting it is like we're just old school. Like we're just stuck in this behaviorist model of education and discipline where the parent is or the teacher is the one to control the situation. Like this little being is to be controlled, rather than to look at it like, oh, there's this being, like this child is complete and full and good and wonderful, and we're here to guide, but not to like mold him into something that we want him to be. And I think there can just be a lot more space given to kids to be able to discover who they are, rather than us trying to make them who they are. Like a school system is trying to have everybody be great at everything. Right? Everybody's supposed to be great at everything. You got to come through high school and you got to take physics and chemistry and math. My kids are going like, when am I ever going to use this? I'm like,
can I shake your kids' hands? Because that was the same way I was. I'm going, I have no use for calculus.
Right.
I have no use for relation functions. No, I don't get it.
Right. I mean, I know I was just going to say calculus because I was like, I went all the way through calculus in high school. I couldn't even tell you, like, if you were holding a gun to my head right now, what calculus is. I don't even know what it is.
No.
Okay. But the point is that there's this requirement, there's this expectation that kids be good at everything and very specific things at that. And not every kid fits that mold. And one of the things that I really work with parents to do is to learn how to meet their child where he is. Like this is who he is. This is your kid. Like you could get him diagnosed with this, that, or the other thing if you choose, or you could not choose. It doesn't matter. Like I don't have an agenda. But the reality is the same kid's going to come home at the end of the day, regardless. This is your kid. So let's figure out how to play the hand we've been dealt.
Okay. I've been thinking in my head, we're going to save aggression and shame for a series.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
For spring.
Well, whenever, but I'm going to come about this another way now. What impact? Oh, no, two conversation pieces before we leave. First one is that parenting today, how much do we need to let go of the way we were raised?
Well, I'd say it depends on how well you like the way you were raised. So I think there are those of us who feel like we had amazing childhoods and we want to give our children childhoods like we had. And then there are those of us who feel like we had horrible childhoods and we don't want to give them anything like that. We want to do something completely different. And then those in the middle. But what I will say is that I think it's an amazing exercise and an important exercise for parents to do. And I do this with parents, is to sit down and just have a little journal. Like, what about your childhood do you want to pass on? Are there rituals? Are there things that you love that your parents did, ways that they behaved that you really like that you want to be sure to pass down? And then in the other column, it's like, are there things that's like, no way, I do not want to do this? Because oftentimes, like, we're kind of zombieing our way. We're just kind of, we're not really thinking about it. And just the act of writing it down and bringing it top of mind often is a really good first step to get parents just thinking about it, or being aware of like, what do I want to bring? What do I want to leave behind? Because the cool thing is that we can leave things behind that we want to leave behind.
True. I'm reflecting with yesterday's conversation and that one gentleman that went deep.
Yeah. And
he's challenged about leaving some things behind.
Mm-hmm.
But what you just shared, that's just, like I say, that's a huge knowledge bomb right there. That's a huge being able to just almost having an accountability check of yourself and have that sheet. One side, this is what I want to keep. The other side, this is what I want to get rid of. But it's not always easy to get rid of, though.
No, it's never easy to get rid of, but it's possible. We're not talking easy. We're talking possible. Most things that are worthwhile aren't easy, I've found.
It's a good point. Good point. We've been going through an interesting time in the world the past 14, 16 months.
We have.
How has it impacted you raising boys as a parent? And what are parents telling you? What are they telling you? What are they challenged with? Because obviously now they had their children at home for a long period of time. They had to be there with them. How are they handling it?
Oh my goodness, Dr. Vibe, this has been like the hardest year and a half for families. Like in all the years I've been working with families, this has just been the hardest time for a lot of different reasons. But I think the biggest reason is the isolation. The kids have been incredibly isolated from their friends, right? They have some kids, most kids have had very little or no contact with other children. Now, if you think about like a kid who's 4, that's half their life, right? That's a long time. The parents are also incredibly isolated. And one of the things that makes it really, really hard to parent in ways that we feel proud of and that we feel good about is when we feel alone. We feel alone with the things that we like. Oops, I didn't really want to act that way. And alone with our wins and alone with everything. Like it's really hard to parent well when we're feeling alone. So the isolation has just hit home really hard. As you know, suicide rates unfortunately have skyrocketed. I don't want to talk about it, but I know it has to be talked about, but it's just so upsetting. But just in my close world, I know people who have, not who I know, but people who I know who know kids who have died by suicide this year and last year. And it's been terrible. I mean, just think of the life that was ahead of them. Parents have been terrified. And so my main message to parents for the last, couple years now has been mental health first. Because it's interesting, like a lot of the challenges and the questions that people would come to me with, like, what do I do about school? I can't get them to sit still and stay on Zoom and all the things. They're all like school related stuff, so much school related stuff. My youngest was in 8th grade last year. We unschooled, mostly un.
Yes.
Okay. Why? Mental health first. He was anxious. He was acting all funny, like towards the beginning of the pandemic. And I was just like, no, we're not going to have this. We're not going down that road. We're just going to let this stress go. We're going to focus on something completely different. So, and that's connection. So, I've been really driving guiding parents away from being stressed out about school and realizing that I can't tell you how many times I've said the last couple of years, if your child misses this entire year of school, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. He can make up everything. We got to focus on their mental health. How is he doing? How is he feeling? Is he laughing? Does he smile? Is he alone in his room or is he interacting with you? Like, these are the things that I'm looking for. I don't care if he's, finished his homework. I really don't. And I'm an academic. I mean, like, I'm not an academic anymore, but I have a graduate degree. Like, I believe in academics. I want my kids to go to college, like all of that.
Right.
But these are extenuating circumstances. We need to be focusing on mental health first. And if that means at the expense of traditional education for a period of time, I believe that that's perfectly okay.
Christy's saying here too, we unschooled.
Yeah.
Wow. Hadn't heard that term. I hear it sparingly, unschooled. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I have to say, I didn't know that much about it before. I ran a book group in my community last summer, I think it was. I brought in the authors of The SelfDriven Child. They have a new book out right now too. And it was just really interesting to talk with them and have this conversation about what it means to help a child develop intrinsic motivation as opposed to what we do with our traditional schooling, which is learn this, learn that, learn this, learn that. And by the way, do it this way at this time. sitting in this position, right?
How much has the last 16, okay, how much impact do you feel going forward since you focus on raising boys? How deep and how long will this impact last, do you feel, on this generation of boys?
Oh my goodness. I think it's going to last them their lifetime, and I think they're going to remember this. I think a lot of it is going to depend upon how we, the adults in their lives, react and respond, how thoughtful we are about helping them out, keeping them emotionally safe, creating safe space for them to share their fears. I think it doesn't really help for us to sort of pretend everything's okay or to freak out completely. And it for sure isn't going to be, I don't think it's going to be helpful to their healing to just kind of go back to life as it was before and just kind of go like, check, okay, we're done with COVID. Like there's going to be a lot to process. Like we need to understand that. I mean, I'm seeing now, these kids are going back to school. It's hard for them to go back to school. It's hard. Like they haven't socialized in almost 2 years. They don't remember how to do that anymore. The plus is that the schools, like the teachers, are much more forgiving right now. So, and that's a really good thing. They're just really being, they're being thoughtful and forgiving. I'm finding a lot of teachers will be much more understanding than they would have been before.
Nice. And Christy's saying also, as an Indigenous family, it worked out best for us. The unschooling.
Unschooling, yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, geez, this time went by real fast. My goodness. My goodness. Before we let you go from part one,
Yeah.
I keep on saying, what sort of thoughts can you give to the parents of boys out there? You've already given us so many great words of wisdom and evaluated experience. Anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
I think the last thing I'll say, and I talk about this a lot, is that your boy is good. Even if he's struggling, that doesn't take away from his goodness. And that every bad behavior, misbehavior is a call for help of some kind. And we might not like what that call for help looks like, but it is our job as parents to answer, to recognize it as a call for help and to answer it. So if you can let go of taking things personally, he's trying to manipulate me, he's trying to hurt me, he wants to do this, that, and the other thing, and to switch that mindset around and think, okay, he's doing the best he can right now. That best isn't good enough. What can I do as the adult with a developed brain to help life go better for us right now? You'll get places much faster.
Actually, there's one thing I also want to add on how important it is to raise our boys the best we can, because those boys turn into men.
Absolutely.
And can you just share a few moments on how important it is to get that foundation of boyhood, because it's the foundation of manhood?
It absolutely is. And when I looked at that newspaper that morning, that's just what hit me. And I thought to myself, these boys, they need to not be confined to the feeling of anger by the time I think it is like 5, by the age of 5 or something. That's sort of the one emotion that I feel like that they can express acceptably, right? So we don't accept as a society, a world society, many of us aren't comfortable with. We don't accept like the softer, more feminine feelings from our boys. We shut them down. We tell them to man up. We need to help our boys, or create safe spaces for our boys to be able to feel their full array of feelings, that full rainbow of feelings, from sadness to embarrassment to failure to whatever it is, joy, excitement. I mean, all of these things. Like an emotionally intelligent man is a man who has access to that rainbow of feelings, who isn't stuck in anger. And that's the box that we're putting our boys in and then our men in, right? So if we can change that for our young boys, we're going to be creating a whole different kind of a man moving forward.
That's a beautiful way to end off our epic conversation today. Tosha, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm glad how you set you up for it, set you up for a 3-part series. I love it. I absolutely love it. For those who are watching live on the replay, I have her website up here, her website address, toshashore.com. And if you're watching this, you can see the homepage. It's right there. So if you want to get in contact with her, that's the best way. I'm also going to, if you're really interested, I'm also going to show her Facebook page. So if you want to join that also, I'm going to put that up in just a second here. But definitely, I'm a member. So why not you? If you believe in boys and men, the betterment of boys and men, there's a Facebook page also. Tosha Schore.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely, anything.
So I run something you mentioned earlier, Parenting Boys Peacefully, a 10-day Reconnect. I'm actually creating a new 5-day version. It's going to be a whole different kind of experience, but I run it. It's free. And I run it, it's been almost a year actually, but generally I run it a few times a year, a couple times a year at least, but I'm going to be doing it in a couple weeks from now. So I haven't quite got it set up yet, but I can give you that link once it's done or posted under the YouTube.
Or you could also come on the show and promote it.
Yeah, I mean, it's only in a couple weeks from now, so
doesn't matter.
Okay, because it's a great place for you parents out there. If you're feeling like you're struggling with your boy, like you're losing him, he's kind of out there somewhere, and you've lost that connection. You don't feel like he's able to cooperate, or you're able to discipline in a way that you're feeling good about. This is a perfect way to start to shift that and start moving you in a different direction.
Wonderful. And Sivan has said he's already joined your Facebook page. Bang. There you go. Well, Tosha, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your positive, productive schedule to share with us. Also want to thank your family, not only your immediate family, but your larger family for the support, and want to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will be doing in order to help us raise boys to good men.
Exactly. My mission, creating a more peaceful world, one sweet boy at a time.
Tagline.
That's my mission. That's my mission.
Well, that's your tagline. That again, that is relevant to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, and make sure to give yourself grace.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Vibe, for inviting me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my thinking with your fans.
They're family. I don't like fans. They're family.
Family. We're family.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right, folks. Epic conversation. Yeah. Tosha and her community are just doing absolutely wonderful things. And again, really encourage to at least go to her website. And if you are up to it, go to the Facebook page, join it. Hey, maybe when she has that 5-day course or that 5-session course coming out in a few weeks, I'm going to take it. Are you? I'm just asking. So it's Dr. Vibe here. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner 2018. Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also host the only online program in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, drink, and travel. Before we sign off, I always like to hail up people who were able to come on live. I'd like to say thank you to Christy, Savan, and Savan's organization on Facebook is, he gave it to me, I got to make sure I get it right, Voice of Men 360 on Facebook. Voice of Men 360 on Facebook. Also want to thank Dr. Tachi and everybody else who watched this live on replay or will be listening to the replay. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. As always, I like to end off my conversations with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect, and remember to give yourselves grace. I want to thank everyone for watching this conversation. And don't you worry, Tosha's coming back. She's coming back. All right? God bless. Peace to well. Keep the faith and walk good.